Well, hi there. My name's Natalie Dawes, and I am the chair of the 2020 JCI Strategic Plan Implementation Committee. For those of you who don't know me, I am a past JCI EVP for Asia Pacific, past JCI VP for Europe, past National President for JCI Australia, but most importantly, I am someone who is passionate about change, transformational change, to be more exact. I love empowering people to recognize and seize opportunities to make themselves better, to make their businesses better, to make their communities better, which is probably what attracts me to JCI so much, because that's exactly what we are all about. And it's why I'm so excited that you are watching this session, as it means that you too are at the very least also curious about change. And hopefully in 60 minutes time, you will feel empowered to seize the opportunities upon us to make JCI even better. Because the time to shape our tomorrow is today. In this session, I will be addressing 3 important questions that every JCI member should be actively thinking about. Why should we accelerate transformation? How have we already started to transform? And why should we embrace transformation? As this is a pre-recorded session, obviously we're not going to be able to engage in any real-time group discussions. However, I have still included a few activities throughout this session. I really encourage you to pause this video at those points and to do those activities because they are designed to really deepen your understanding of the content I will cover, to get you into that transformation mindset. In fact, I even encourage you to have watch parties with other members of your local organisation or with your board of directors team or just with your JCI friends from around the world so that you can work together on these activities and share your thoughts and ideas with each other. The more perspectives and the more creativity, the better. And look, of course, if you want a copy of any of the materials that you see today, please just email my team at strategy@jci.cc. We would be more than happy to help you out. Okay, so let's get into it. Why should we accelerate transformation? Well, before I answer that question, I hope that many of you recognize this term, accelerate transformation, because it's quite an important one for JCI. That's because it is the tagline or the key theme of JCI's 2019-2023 Strategic Plan. Every recommendation in that document is about accelerating transformation in individuals, in businesses, in communities, and in JCI itself. Why is it important that organisations like JCI have a strategic plan? Well, strategy is essentially the process of selecting an organisation's goals and developing the ways that you will achieve it. It effectively just describes what an organisation is going to do and how it is going to do it. So, think of JCI's strategic plan as its roadmap to a sustainable and successful future, one that was based on the best possible information available to us at this time. In 2018, that is exactly what we did. I was one of the JCI members chosen to be part of the committee that developed the strategic plan. We all travelled to the headquarters in St. Louis to spend a week reflecting on the past of JCI, critically evaluating the current state of JCI, and planning for JCI's future based on the best evidence that we had. And that evidence included data from a global online survey that was run, input from workshops with members, existing documents, even just our own experiences as members of this organisation. And I'm going to be honest with you, that wasn't an easy task. We had to have a lot of open, honest, and difficult conversations about JCI. What is good? What is important to us? And what could be better? Part of the challenge is that we had to consider the needs of members who are currently too young to join JCI, our future generation of members. Who are they? What do they need? How do they do things? An interesting bit of context to that week for me was that it was at the same time that a group of school students who had survived a school shooting at their school in Florida were in Washington, DC. They had taken their campaign to change, for change to their nation's leaders. And, after a long day of, working on this strategy, I'd go back to my hotel room, turn on the news, and see this group of students meeting with the president, engaging with politicians and industry leaders. Now, regardless of your views on the actual issue that was being discussed, what was an important insight for us was that this was our young people, our future generation of change makers, and potentially our future members. In 2019, so many of us witnessed this again when young people mobilised all around the world, stepping out of their classrooms and onto the streets to make their collective voices heard as they express their concerns about the impacts of climate change and what the current leaders across the world were doing about it. The next generation of young people are more educated than ever, more technologically savvy than ever, and more connected than ever. Will JCI be ready to be the organisation they need to better mobilise and to better impact the world? In developing this document, we had to plan for a future that we cannot see. We don't know what the future will be. We only know that it will be different from today. This is a quote from the preamble to the current JCI Strategic Plan that I really wanted to highlight to you. Acceleration is undeniable. Adaptability is not a luxury. It is a necessity for survival. As the world rapidly changes, we need to be ready to adapt to these changes. If we don't, we become outdated and irrelevant. JCI needs to adapt not only to survive, but because we want to be the organisation that is leading change. We want to shape the future and to accelerate the transformation of young leaders, of our businesses, and of our communities. So we need to accelerate the transformation of JCI itself. The current strategic plan is built upon previous plans. In 2009, we focused on who we are, adopting a new vision and a new mission that unified us all as active citizens creating positive change in the world. In 2014, our attention shifted to what we do, positioning JCI as the organisation that will unite all sectors of society to create sustainable impact. And then in 2019, we challenged our members to rethink how we do what we do. We challenged members to rethink our events, to rethink the roles of officers and HQ staff, to rethink our constitution, to rethink our advocacy, to rethink our finances, to rethink our use of technology, and perhaps most importantly, to rethink our culture. We want members to do more than adapt. We want them to innovate, to transform. There are 5 strategic pillars within the strategic plan, each with its own vision for 2023. The challenge for us all is, how do we translate vision into concrete actions, not only at the international or the headquarters level, but also within our own national and local organisations? How do we ensure that our local members who are out on the front line in our communities are taking the steps needed for us to collectively realise this vision? And how do we do that in just 5 years? So the next question to be asked is, well, how have we started to transform? 2020 marks the 2nd year of the current JCI Strategic Plan, and we have started to make progress. But I would actually argue that, by the end of last year, the first year of the plan, that progress was fairly small. Why? Because change is hard. We are used to the way we do things now. It's the way we've always done things. It's comfortable. It's habit. It's hard to actually think of things being any other way. JCI is blessed to have a rich history that spans over 100 years. But sometimes that history can also hold us back. We need to embrace the best of the past, but we also need to somehow build up the momentum to innovate for the future. Sometimes the inertia holding us back is so strong, and the task ahead seems so overwhelming that it takes a powerful shock to overcome it. And that is exactly what has happened. Entering 2020 has felt like we have entered a parallel universe. Borders are closed. Businesses have shut down. Communities are locked in their homes. Our lives and our very livelihoods are at risk. In just a few months, the world has completely changed, and we have had no choice but to adapt. And we are adapting. We have found ways around these restrictions. We have found ways to keep impacting, to keep motivating, to keep investing, to keep collaborating, and to keep connecting. And guess what? We are also having a great time doing it. As I watch members all around the world driving these transformations through my social media accounts, I often think to myself, I bet very few of these members realize that these new initiatives that they're doing just to survive, they're actually bringing our JCI strategic plan to life. So Let's unpack each of the 5 pillars of the strategic plan and look at how our members are already implementing these recommendations through their innovative new initiatives. As I have already mentioned, we are an organisation of young people who create impact. Positive, sustainable impact. And even though impact sits at the very heart of JCI, I think it is actually one of the most misunderstood terms in our organisation. Some people think that impact is only about community and projects that focus on community development. But impact is about so much more than that. It cuts across all the areas of opportunity that JCI offers. JCI is not just a community organisation. There are already a lot of those out there. JCI is not just a business or entrepreneurial organisation. Again, that corner of the market is really well covered. And JCI is not just a leadership organisation. You know, let's be honest, there are plenty of those out there as well. No. What makes JCI special? What gives us our competitive advantage in a very big and cluttered market is that we are all of these things. We create positive impact in the world's young people so that they can become the leaders who will create positive impact in their businesses and in their communities. The JCI Strategic Plan has a vision that JCI will be recognised for its powerful story of impact. And one of the truly inspiring examples of how our members are transforming the way we create impact is a project from JCI Switzerland called Think Global, Buy Local. In March, COVID-19 sent their country into lockdown, forcing many businesses to close. JCI members realised that short-term cash flow, the impact of not having that would be devastating for thousands of small and medium businesses. So, working remotely from their homes, they decided that they were going to create an online platform where businesses could sign up and consumers could buy online vouchers for those businesses, which they could redeem after the lockdown ended. This means business owners were still able to have some income while their business was closed. Less than 3 days after the lockdown, this platform went live. And in just 1 month, they had signed up 3,500 merchants and had raised over €1 million through voucher sales. That is an incredible impact on local businesses and on local communities more broadly. This is jobs saved, which means that it is families saved. Workers are able to continue to spend money to support their families, which boosts the local economy, which boosts overall community well-being. This is a great demonstration of the active citizen framework at work. These members identified a need, designed a solution, connected with industry partners, even in just 3 days and not able to leave their homes. They built these partnerships to implement their solution, and they have created a sustainable impact. And it's an impact that we can really clearly measure. This ties in with one of the recommendations of the JCI Strategic Plan. We need to become better at using evidence-based metrics to measure our impact. And of course, there are so many other innovative ways that JCI has been able to focus the power of young people to affect change across the globe during this pandemic. Using the process set out in our Active Citizen Framework, our members have been able to respond to the changing needs of local communities and accelerate impact. From disinfecting public spaces to developing contact tracing apps, from distributing meals to manufacturing personal protective equipment, from educating citizens about hygiene to driving public policy change. Our members are making real, meaningful impact when it is needed most. JCI has a vision that it will unite the passion of young people to motivate bold action. By motivating young people to exchange ideas, inform issues, drive dialogue, and showcase youth-led solutions, we will be cultivating a mindset of global citizenship. We believe that JCI can enable young people to lead the implementation of solutions to create a better future. Motivation is key in transforming interest into commitment, from idea into action. One of the great motivational initiatives I've seen from our members to drive the dialogue of young leaders towards sustainable impact is the Africa We Want from JCI Sandton in South Africa. As part of Africa Day celebrations, this local organisation launched a series of youth-led discussions about building the Africa we want. Through this platform, JCI Sandton was able to ensure that the voice of young people from all across the African continent was heard, and to ensure that that voice was pushing leaders, not just across the continent, but across the world, to take the action that was needed today. JCI has a vision that it will invest in the world's greatest resource, young people, and that all its investments will follow clear strategic priorities instead of being decided by tradition or habit or politics. In developing the strategic plan, there was a very clear objective that investment can not only be thought of in terms of how we generate and allocate funds. It is also about our investment in technology, our investment in the JCI brand, and our investment in our human resources. It is about reimagining how we invest in you. Good investment requires a culture of discipline, creativity, and strategic thinking. JCI Brazil has taken inspiration from the popular show Shark Tank to create a program that invests in entrepreneurial ideas with positive impacts. Local organisations are encouraged to develop a minimum viable product that businesses and startups can use that has a demonstrable social or environmental impact and an evidence-based potential to scale up. Ideally, these products will be designed to make a meaningful contribution to the realisation of the United Nations Sustainable Goals. The winning proposal receives investment funding to bring that idea to life. This is such a great example of how, at a national level, JCI is committed to funding impact-driven initiatives and accelerating positive change. By investing in our young people and their businesses, we are investing in our communities. But as I mentioned a short time ago, investment in our strategic plan is not just about financial investment. It's also about the effort invested in our human capital. And we have most definitely accelerated our transformation in how we deliver training. The debate about whether JCI should do online training is one that has been going on for a very long time. Our traditional model of training was very much about face-to-face training in the same room. But for some members, this actually made JCI training inaccessible, whether it was because there was a lack of trainers, low participant numbers, high operational costs, or just even limitations around the geographic mobility of members. The traditional model posed some barriers. Yet, in the midst of this crisis, it took JCI just 2 months to become a fully fledged online training organisation. And not just with our official courses, but local and national organisations taking the lead to run webinars and virtual workshops and events just like this, which are accessible to all members, actually to all young people all around the world. It's amazing. And our members are loving it. JCI Finland was one of the first that I really noticed took a lead in experimenting with online training this year. And I have to say, they went all out, bringing top international trainers to our couches for a full 24 hours, with topics covering leadership, communication, sales, motivation, sustainability, creativity, and so much more. There was even a yoga class in the middle of it all. Together Net 24 hours took skills development to the next level. I remember seeing so many of my Facebook friends from all around the world who were among the hundreds of participants posting photos of how much they were loving this lockdown learning experience. By leveraging online technologies, we have been able to accelerate the transformation of how we do things, while also accelerating the personal and professional transformation of our members. JCI has a vision that our collaboration with all sectors of society will foster innovation in how we address the greatest challenges of our time. And that sentiment seems so highly relevant to us today, as we actually do find ourselves in the midst of one of the greatest challenges of our time. Collaboration for the purposes of the strategic plan is about how we work with those outside of JCI, our external partnerships. We want young people to come to JCI to affect change in business, government, and communities. This means we need to position external collaboration as central to positive change, but also that we need to be willing to have a strong, sure, collective voice in advocating on the issues that affect young people. Collaboration should not be a tick box. It should be completely embedded in our culture. Throughout the pandemic, JCI Philippines has really been leveraging its existing strong track record on positive collaboration to respond to the new emerging challenges. One of the initiatives to come out of this was the online Filipino Youth Action Conference. With Filipino citizens compelled to stay at home, Passionate young people across that country started turning to online technologies so that they could still actively contribute to the nation's COVID-19 response, despite the restrictions on their mobility. In partnership with other youth-led organisations, JCI Philippines helped support and launch the first ever online Filipino Youth Action Summit. Through a series of panel sessions, online discussions, and other activities, the summit sought to understand the context of the COVID-19 situation in that country, to realise the importance that the Filipino youth, the importance of the youth in responding to the COVID-19 situation, to discuss the multi-dimensional impact of the COVID-19 situation on the nation's youth, and to highlight youth-led or youth-focused solutions being done to aid the COVID-19 situation in the Philippines. Hundreds of young people were empowered to engage with representatives from business, community, and government. At an international level, JCI has also been utilising its partner network to engage in various online panel discussions with leaders from all sectors of society, from entrepreneurs and angel investors to activists and community workers, from chambers of commerce to the United Nations. We are opening up dialogue to encourage collaborative efforts across all sectors to maximise our impact during these challenging times. And we are also building bridges between our world's leaders, influencers, and decision makers and the world's young people. It is through collaboration that we can commit to shared goals and direct our actions to a clear purpose. JCI has a vision that it will ignite a youth-led movement to change the world. By strengthening our connections within JCI through a culture of inclusivity and a celebration of diversity, we can achieve more. We can increase the impact we create in ourselves, our businesses, and our communities. We want young people to come to JCI because it is the place they can unite around the issues that inspire them. The global pandemic has certainly impacted our ability to connect. We can no longer travel around the world to meet in large events. In many cases, we have not even been able to leave our homes to meet with members in our own local areas. These restrictions have fundamentally changed our experience of JCI at this moment. I hear so many stories from JCI members who attend their first area conference or their first World Congress, and they have this aha moment. Many of you probably relate to this. This is my story too. It is the first time that you truly realise the global community that JCI is, and the first time that you really start to build those life-changing connections. In a time when these events are not possible, how can we keep giving our members those global connections that lead them to have their aha moment? One initiative I have seen connect JCI members during the pandemic actually comes from my own home. JCI Together is a Facebook group launched in partnership between JCI Australia and one of its local organisations, JCI Brisbane. In a short time, it has connected nearly 1,000 members from all around the world. In this group, members get to know each other by engaging in conversations about all sorts of things, from sharing what their favourite book is, or voting on their favourite pet photos, or sharing their working from home selfies. But it also runs regular webinars with really high caliber speakers covering topics such as leadership and innovation, and all sorts of different topics that offer opportunities for skills development. JCI Together is a forum for members to share their ideas and initiatives and to build friendships. I think this is a great example of transforming how we connect in JCI. It is expanding and strengthening connections through our global organisation. It is creating an inclusive environment that embraces diversity. And it's a terrific start in moving us towards innovative new methods of engaging young people to create a meaningful experience for them in JCI. I have to say, I suspect the members of this Facebook group just cannot wait until they finally get to meet their new friends physically somewhere in the world, hopefully sometime soon. Okay, so at the beginning of this session, I said that we would do some activities. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten that. Now is the time for you to start reflecting on what all of this means for you and your own experience in JCI. Having explored some of the innovative new initiatives we are seeing from JCI members and young leaders that align with the 5 pillars of the strategic plan, I want you to think about the transformation that is starting to occur in your local and national JCI organisations. Think about what you have been doing differently in your local or national organisation over the last few months because of COVID-19. An example of this could be something like running your board meetings online, but I'm sure there is plenty of other stuff that you have all been doing. I want you to pick one of these. Which of the 5 strategic pillars, impact, motivate, invest, collaborate, or connect, do you think that new thing you're doing best aligns to? And why do you think these new things that you and possibly many other members around the world are doing could contribute to JCI achieving this pillar's strategic vision? So if you are going to have a go at doing this activity now, I would actually recommend pausing this video at this point in time so you can see the questions on the screen and spending 5, maybe 10 minutes working on it now. Okay, great. Let's move on. You have probably heard me use these words or some variation of them quite a lot during this session. Individual, business, community, international. They are collectively known as the 4 areas of opportunity in JCI. The concept of the 4 areas has remained popular with members for many years, mostly because of its simplicity. For example, when you're trying to recruit new members, it's so easy to pop each of these across a few slides and in a presentation talk about each one of these one by one to your prospective members. A word of caution is that simplicity can sometimes cause us to fall into a little bit of a trap, viewing each of these in isolation. Sometimes the way we talk about them implies a degree of mutual exclusivity between them. But these are not mutually exclusive, and we should not be thinking about them in isolation of each other. At JCI, we recognise the interconnectedness of the 4 areas. When we impact one, we impact them all. To make the most of the 4 areas of opportunity, it is actually important to think about them in the context of the 5 strategic pillars. When we recognise how we can leverage each one of these opportunities to achieve our strategic goals, and how the actions aligned with our strategic pillars can maximise these opportunities, well, that's when we can really accelerate transformation. Now, you may be starting to think, Nat, this is all starting to sound a little bit too theoretical, a little bit too complicated, maybe, a little bit too high level. I'm a local, member. This is a little bit too much. Let me reassure you that it actually isn't. And the best way I can demonstrate this to you is through a tool that our committee has developed called the JCI Leaders 4x5. Right, so here is activity number 2. As you can see, the JCI Leader 4x5 is just a simple matrix. On one axis, we have the 4 areas of opportunity listed, while on the other, we have the 5 strategic pillars. By laying these elements out in this tabular form, it helps us to focus our thinking. For example, looking at the matrix I have up on the screen, for that first box in the top left of the matrix, what you would do is think about, well, what is an action I could take aligned with our impact vision, and how could that benefit opportunities for individual development within JCI? Once I've come up with an answer for that, I move down to the next box. What would be an action I could take which is aligned with our impact vision that could open up new opportunities for business in JCI? And so on and so on. If you are only going to do one activity out of this whole session, I highly recommend that this is the one you do. Why? Because by the time you complete this matrix, you will have at least 20 actions that you could undertake in your local or national organisation that are highly aligned to both the JCI Strategic Plan and the areas of opportunity. For those of you who may be thinking about running for local, national or international officer roles next year, by doing this activity, you have the beginnings of a plan of action for 2021 that is so on point with both the grassroots needs of your members and the high-level strategic goals of JCI as a whole. For members of our area development councils, this is a great tool that you can use with the developing national organisations you're working with to help them come up with clear, concrete actions to help them achieve growth. My committee team is actually in the process of doing this activity with JCI's international officers this month, because we really believe that the insights that can be gained from this tool can provide really meaningful evidence for the recommendations that we will be developing to provide advice to JCI about how it can successfully implement our JCI strategic plan. So please, give the JCI Leaders 4x5 a go. Share your ideas with your JCI peers. And please share them with me and my team with emailing a copy of your completed matrix to strategy@jci.cc. I cannot overstate how excited I will be to see what you come up with. So moving on now to our final question and the future of our transformation. Living in a world that right now is filled with so much uncertainty, anxiety, and frustration, so many of us pine to go back to before it all happened, to the way things were before COVID-19. Some of us are counting down the days until we can slip back into those comfortable old habits. But the fact is that the world that existed before COVID-19 no longer exists, and it will never exist again. The world at the end of this pandemic will be different. The world will have gone through an extremely rapid transformation. That new generation of tomorrow's JCI members, they are the children and teenagers whose generation will be defined by this pandemic. It will shape who they become as adults. Many of our old ways, those comfortable old habits, will be irrelevant, ineffective, and outdated in the new world. What I hope to see is that this crisis has acted as a circuit breaker. It has disrupted the inertia that makes change hard. We had to change, and guess what? Some of those changes were actually really good. For example, some of those changes have increased accessibility. New people can access training. Members can better balance some of their family, work, and JCI responsibilities. It's helped overcome income limitations that might prevent young people from engaging in physical events. It's helped us reach new members, new partners, and new networks. Some of these new things we've been doing have actually been more sustainable. For example, traveling less actually means generating less pollution. They may be low cost, and in some cases, members have been able to do these things more frequently. And, in some changes, they've also made us more effective. We're more productive and we're more flexible than ever. After the pandemic, we will need to evaluate the new ways against the old ways. The ones that were good, we should be keeping. And more importantly, we should no longer be afraid of change. Really, it's not actually even a choice between, am I going to do things the way from before COVID-19, or I'm going to do them the way we did them during COVID-19? Actually, the question that we need to be asking ourselves is, what are the new, even better ways that we can do things after COVID-19? I want to highlight this quote from the conclusion of our current JCI Strategic Plan. Now we must adapt to the dynamic needs of young people to create momentum to stay relevant and meaningful in our changing world. This crisis will end. All crises do. When we all emerge from our lockdown, we need to emerge brave enough and bold enough to innovate and adapt to the changes that will continue around us, to shape an organisation that is sustainable for many, many years to come, no matter what the next challenge ahead may be, to be the organisation that tomorrow's members want to join. Okay, let's do one last activity to tie all of this up together. I want you to turn your mind back to that one thing you identified in the first activity in this session that your local or national organisation has been doing differently. And I want you to ask yourself, what has been so good about that change? Was it more convenient? Was it more engaging? Was it more affordable? Did it allow you to reach more people, members and non-members? Did it fill a gap that was actually already existing in what you do? Has it made you more productive or more effective in some way? And thinking about the benefits that you identify for this new way, I want you to think, do you believe that you should keep doing that thing differently after the COVID-19 lockdowns, and why? So once again, if you're thinking about doing this exercise, stop now, pause the video so you can see the questions, and give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to work through that. Okay, let's wrap this up. We are now moving to the time of year when our incoming leaders are turning their minds to next year. From local officers to international officer candidates, many members are starting to map out their plan of action for 2021. Next year will be a very important year for JCI. The leaders of 2021 will be our pioneers. This year's leaders have been our adapters, unexpectedly pivoting to fulfill their responsibilities within the restrictions of this pandemic. And I have to say, acting as amazing role models in demonstrating how quickly we can adapt to challenges. But next year's leaders will be forced to make a decision as we start to hopefully emerge from the pandemic. Will they decide to slip back into the comfortable old habits? Or will they grab the throttle and keep accelerating our transformation? The local, national, and international leaders of 2021 will set the course for JCI's future. Together, we will continue to create positive change by accelerating transformation in our organisation, in ourselves, in our businesses, in our communities, and across the world as a whole. I ask you, please continue to innovate, continue to experiment, continue to evaluate, and continue to embrace. Transformation will make us stronger in the new world and will allow us to be the change makers that the world needs more than ever. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this session and for hopefully engaging in the activities. And a really big thank you to Chairperson Rumana Chowdhury and the APDC team for this amazing opportunity to connect with all of you. I hope I may have made some sort of impact and that you are all feeling really motivated right now. As I said at the beginning, the JCI Strategic Plan Implementation Committee is more than happy to share the content and activities from this session with you. Just email us at strategy.jci.cc with your request and we'll get back to you. And what I would love even more than knowing that you have done the activities in this session is if you would actually share your answers with us. So, take a photo or, scan the worksheet that you draw, that you doodle it all over. If you were typing it on your screen, convert it to a PDF, whatever. Just email a copy of your answers through to us. That way we can collate all your ideas and your insights, and we can use them to help shape the recommendations that we will be providing to JCI at the end of this year. And please, make sure you follow our Facebook page. You can find it by typing in the search bar JCI Strategic Plan Implementation or at JCISPI. And on that page, you can get the latest updates around what's happening in JCI, great articles and commentaries we find about transformation and strategic planning and implementation. And we will be sharing lots of new resources that we are developing over the coming months. So everything from videos to some Facebook Live sessions where we can actually start digging into some design thinking and working together to come up with creative ideas of how we can rethink all the different elements of JCI. I wish all of you the best for the rest of this year. Stay safe, stay in touch, and please keep accelerating that transformation. Thank you.